Hello, MMA bettors and MMA fans, back here again with MMA Mobsters episode. I don't even know what number, but it's always brought to you, of course, by cellsaviors.org, the premier in athletic performance supplements, diamine.com, work hard, play rough, diamine, and of course, Grapplers Clash. Find a match, build up your ranking, and become a star without a manager, without a promoter. Find your own matches and go win some money, baby. Win some money. Grapplersclash.com. All right. Of course, joining me is the Choven one, Joshua Choven. Joshua, it's good to see you, buddy. How you doing?
It's good to see you too, Pat. And I'm not making this up. I usually don't know what episode it is, but our wonderful producer reminds me it is episode 69. So keep
Okay.
jokes to yourself, keep your perverse thoughts to yourself. But episode 69 is happening,
Magic.
and
Magic will happen.
magic will happen, and it is happening. So I got to be honest with you, Pat. When you ask how I am, I've been better. Not having the best hair day, so the Jufro is not flowing. And speaking of soil saviors and healthy food, and they're trying to kill us with the food that they're serving us these days, blah, blah, blah. I'm recovering from some not so good Chinese food that did something to me. So, but I'm here. I'm here for the double episode. I'm pushing through. I'm a fighter, and nothing's going to keep me down. So,
Well, I have to be honest with you. You kind of deserve to be sick eating Chinese food. I mean, they don't even try to hold back the MSG. They actually throw extra MSG in most of the time. So, that's one of the many fronts we have to deal with our food. But nonetheless, I want to talk about last week. We did okay last week, I think. Tell me how you did last week overall, and where'd you end up?
well, while I'm
Did,
looking at
did you
that card, Militech, how about you
did
fill
you
the airtime by telling me what is the one thing I've been watching your soil savior stuff and your stuff about food, and I'm inspired by that, frankly, and I've learned a lot. What's the number one food you would delete from Americans' diets? What is killing Americans? The number one thing is it corn? Is it soda? What would you remove?
grains, nuts, and seeds, because all animals have the ability to either run or defend themselves. They're born with those abilities to defend themselves, run again, or fight, claws, teeth, things like that. Plants can't run from the predator, so they put toxins, organic chemistry into the seeds, their babies, so that animals will not eat them,
Oh wow.
because it'll make you sick. So, yeah, seeds, nuts, and grains are typically throughout history have always been fed to slaves, and that's how you keep slaves alive until, well, you throw them into the Roman arena with the lions. So yeah, grains, nuts, and seeds are absolutely toxic. So take that out of your diet, and your digestion, your breathing, your inflammation will absolutely get better. So
Wow.
there you go.
That's wild. So I can't have my cashews anymore?
Look, I'm not telling you what you can or can't have, but if you're
Cashews.
sick of the,
I was being told that cashews were like the healthy nut. That is fascinating. So that
it's a
is,
seed. It's technically a seed, right? A nut
yep,
is a seed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That
So
makes sense.
there's plenty of toxins in there. So
Well,
um,
you get a little bonus information here. Well, when we're talking about last week's card pack, we built it up as the card of the year, possibly the card of the decade, and I don't think I'm overhyping to say it's just obviously
yeah.
capped off by, oh my God, Strickland actually fucking did it. But you had Joshua Van Tatsudo Taira. Why is every flyweight fight an absolute banger? Like I would take two random flyweights over most women's title fights. It is crazy. The flyweights always deliver, and then I mean, he's looking further down the card. King Green, damn near 40 years old, has never looked better. You and I went back and forth on the Amasov Joel Alvarez fight. That might have been, other than Strickland Chimaev, obviously, that might have been the fight I was most intrigued by on the card because Amasov has such an interesting story with being with literally working double duty jobs, is fighting for his country and fighting in the octagon, and he's looked really good in the octagon. Is he UFC level? I think he proved that. Pat, did you get to watch that? I know you watched the main card. Did you get to watch that Amasov domination?
I did. Yeah, he looked very good.
That's a
That
real
was
fighter he dominated.
I think, to be honest with you, that's the one fight I got wrong. I think I picked Alvarez in that matchup. So that's the one fight I did get wrong. And so, hey, that's and I went with the underdog in that one. I went with Alvarez.
You're
So
being a little too hard on yourself. You had some absolute crazy polls. It may have been the most impressive betting advice I've ever seen you give in an episode. You nailed two massive bets. You nailed Jim Miller by submission and the Sean Strickland big upset. Not only were you, I played a little more safe. I'm like, if you want to make a crazy bet, this is certainly worth throwing a few bucks at. You were pretty confident. How did you feel watching those two major bets go through, and talk about the analysis that led you to believe that both of those things would happen? Because I think Miller winning by submission was like plus 700, and then Strickland just to win period was like plus 500.
well, the thing is with Miller, I mean, his massive amount of experience. Number one, Jared Gordon was barely 500, barely over 500 in the UFC at 9-7. You know, and then he's 2-1 on the ground, which tells me he's out of all the fights he's got 30 fights, 29 fights. He's only won or lost three times on the ground, which tells me if Miller gets him to the ground, he's going to wreck him, which obviously happened. So that told me go with Miller 100%. So that was awesome. And then, of course, Brady over Buckley. I picked Brady. I thought I just don't think Buckley's able to deal with him on the ground. And so I think Buckley was the favorite in that one as well. So it was an underdog pick. And then you convinced me. I was leaning just slightly towards Tatsuro in the co-main event. And after our conversation, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with Van as well in that one. And he was the underdog. And then Strickland, to me, again, as long as he got it past 2.5 rounds halfway through the third round, he was going to win. And so, yeah. So I guess you told me if I would have bet $100 on those four as a parlay, what would I have won?
Yeah, it was. Maybe Lee can check the group text and whisper in our ears what the other two
$9,600
fighters
or
were.
something like that.
It was something along your. So it was the Jim Miller by sub. No, it was just Jim Miller just to win, Kamzat just to win, and then a couple other underdogs that you liked. And yeah, it was like 200 times your money. So whatever you would have bet, it would have been 200 times that, which is just nuts. And those were four bets that you were pretty confident in. So yeah, you absolutely. I think we crushed it last week, but you especially crushed it, and that was a lot of fun to see those get home Saturday night.
Yeah, and you made money. So
Yeah,
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 okay.
yeah.
So Lee telling
Not
me it
bad.
would have been basically 10K. So not that I'm going to begin betting this week, but I actually kind of have an inkling to throw, $20 out just
Yeah,
to have fun. But
yeah,
anyway,
sure.
all right. So after the last week's betting, we did well. Let's talk about the MVP card coming up, which we're going to talk about in a separate episode after we're done with this show. We're going to come back and cover the odds and who we think is going to win in the MVP card. But I mean, this is getting a lot of traction.
It is getting a lot of traction, Pat, and I think this is the golden season of MMA for the year. It seems like we get the UFC card of the year, at least the early leader for card of the year in the clubhouse last week. We get the huge MVP card that everyone's talking about. You would think that UFC wasn't even happening this weekend. It is. There's some good fights to bet on, but Netflix is going to have MMA for the first time, and with Bellator closing and PFL trying their damnedest to get themselves going bankrupt, there's a space in MMA for a number two. And I think that obviously with the Netflix machine behind you, you can't fail. So I think that MVP will be fun tomorrow. I think it might be a little bit of a circus. We're talking about, I think the average age on the card is like 42 or something. So I think we'll see some things that I think we'll see some amazing things, and there will be a few bloopers in there. But I think it's going to be fun, and I think they're going to put on a good show. And I think we'll see more of MVP. But we got to get through tomorrow. Ronda Rousey, Mike Perry, Nate Diaz, Francis Ngannou, Alex Pereira's sister. I mean, we're going to do a whole episode talking about it, but what's the one fight that you're looking forward to breaking down here on the back-to-back episode?
I'm actually kind of interested in Junior Dos Santos.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, he's an underdog on that card, and we won't go into it
Big
right
dog.
now, but I think it's interesting. We'll talk about it, but also I've always liked Ngannou. The guy's terrifying, so it'll be interesting to see how he comes back. Of course, he's a huge favorite, but I think the Gina Carano's always been pretty well spoken, and Ronda Rousey seems more abrasive now than a piece of sandpaper going over herpes. It's like it's nonstop with her. I mean, she's calling Chimaev cleft lip Lincoln and just all kinds of ridiculous stuff.
It's weird.
She's struggling. She's struggling to get, to make. I just don't think that kind of language is needed to make a card big. That's
It is a little. It is a little over the top, and you know what? It strikes me as, Pat. It strikes me as someone who had all the hype and all the momentum in the world. She could do no wrong. Won her first, I think, 7 UFC fights easily. Then she gets knocked out brutally by Holly Holm. Gets knocked out brutally about a year later by Amanda Nunes. And then I think just kind of sits at home and looks at all these people making fun of her on her phone and social media and just gets very sour and very bitter. And now that she has a spotlight and a microphone again, she doesn't seem happy. And I don't know how much of that is an attempt to sell the card. And I don't know what's real these days, Pat. You got Josh Hockett being a Mexican Jedi or whatever act he's doing. People are doing some strange things to get attention, but I think that's a pretty good snapshot of the world we live in right now. So
eat more Ritalin.
Right. Yeah, I guess.
So anyway, no, and I don't want to be too derogatory, but Rousey's obviously been an awesome athlete. She won the title, tore through the competition, amazing stuff. But I didn't think it was possible for her striking to get worse than Shabazian did to her, whoever her old coach was. But the new striking coach looks like he's got her at least attempting to move like Mike Tyson, and it's just not coming off very well. Now, that being said, and we can move on from here, but obviously she's probably physically stronger than Carano. She hits harder. Probably Carano's technique looks better, more finesse, better, cleaner technique, things like that. But yeah, they seem to actually screw up the mechanics of Rousey's striking a little bit more. I didn't realize it was possible.
Yeah, and that's you're the world-renowned expert on that, Pat, not only as a fighter but as a coach, obviously. But just one thing that jumped out to me was it's never good when you're shadow boxing in front of a camera and you're closing your eyes. So that's not good, right? That's not something that you would teach down at MFS.
Well, like they say, don't blink or you'll die in the dark.
Clip that, Lee. I like that.
That's the same.
On that note, after this episode, 5 minutes, 10 minutes after, we will do an MVP only picks. Nobody's giving out betting picks for the MVP card. So this is a huge opportunity for us, for you. We're going to do UFC. We're going to make some money in UFC. Then we're going to make some money in Netflix. That sound good, Militich?
Double dipping, baby. Oh, and one more thing in the news, Connor potentially coming back on fight week against Max Holloway, which is, I think exciting. What do you think?
I think it's exciting, Pat. I think that we have to talk about it because it's like the number 1, number 2 MMA news story trending right now. Just do a quick fill-in. Ariel Helwani, who certainly has his people that don't like him, but I think out of any reporter MMA, Ariel has at least established a record of being somewhat reliable. He said that Conor McGregor is 99% done. He expects it to be announced this weekend. Possibly that's to try to upstage the MVP card. Actually, now that I think about it, that's 100% to upstage the MVP card. So look for an announcement to come out during the UFC broadcast tomorrow, Pat. The rumor is that it's Max Holloway. That would be a rematch. A lot of people forgot that was Conor's second fight in the UFC. He beat Max Holloway by taking him down and smothering him, a la Khabib. We've never seen him fight like that since, but he showed off some jujitsu there early. Conor did, and that was really the fight that propelled him into superstardom. After that, it was a fast track to the title. I believe he called out Jose Aldo after beating Max Holloway, which was just nuts to do. No one knew who he was, and all of a sudden everyone knew who he was. So that would be a great fight for them. I love these legacy fights Holloway's getting. The grudge match with Dustin. Now, you and I have been here before, Pat, where Conor's supposed to fight Michael Chandler, and then it falls through. So I won't hold my breath until the octagon doors lock, but it looks like we might have Conor McGregor back in the UFC.
Very interesting. Okay. I want to move on to the UFC card for tomorrow. We'll start out with Bannon against Kalari. Kalari is actually ranked 28th in the world flyweight up against Shauna Bannon. Bannon batting 500 in the UFC. Kalari's looking for her first win, 0-2 in the UFC, 8-4 overall. What say you? Kalari's, I think, a heavy favorite from what I remember. If you could break that down for me.
She is, Pat, and Shauna Bannon's no slouch, other than being absolutely gorgeous and building a fan following just off of that. She's a very good fighter. She can strike. She excels particularly on the ground. Had a very slick finish, I believe it was her fight or two ago. So the talent's there, but Kalari seems to be certainly the more respected fighter here. But I think Bannon might be a little more proven. Big line movement for Kalari. Opens up at minus 200. She's minus 300 now. It's not like Bannon has looked bad in there. So that interested me. I dove a little bit more into it and it made a little more sense. Kalari does seem like a bad matchup for Bannon. So I'm going to buy into Kalari here. Women's MMA, anything can happen, but I think she's good for a unit bet. That's very good line movement, moving 100 points.
Do you think Kalari gets her standing up or on the ground? Both? What are your thoughts?
I think for watching Bannon fight, she's more susceptible on the ground. Her amazing on the ground finish was because some woman from India absolutely put her on her ass, almost knocked her out, and she kind of woke up on the ground and just submitted her. So we've seen her get hurt on the feet before. I think that's the easiest path to victory against
Shauna. Kalari likes to knock people out. So
there you go.
Yeah. All right, I'll agree with you on Kalari. All right, Barraza against Garul, Louis Garul. 0-3, Louis Garul. Still in the UFC at 0-3, 10-3 overall. He's not had great competition, neither one of them. Really, Barraza's competition was pretty weak early on in his career. Break this one down for me. They're ranked 41st and 44th, respectively.
Yeah, Pat, this may make you vomit in your mouth a little bit, but Guruli's one of my favorite bets on this entire card. He's one of my bets of the entire weekend, combining the MVP card. I don't know what Lucas Guruli did, whether he saved a bunch of kittens from a fire or something, but Hunter Campbell is insistent on getting this guy a win. I don't think Perez is anywhere close to UFC level. It's no insult to the man, but Guruli should be cut. I mean, fights 3 UFC fights, loses 3 UFC fights. See you later, buddy. For some reason, they see something in this kid because they're giving him one of the most winnable fights of his career. We've seen him open up at minus 100. He's minus 160 now, Pat. That's huge line movement. His line's almost doubled. So bettors love Guruli here. I think he gets his UFC win. And I think he's a really bad matchup for Perez. And obviously you have to kind of bite your tongue and swallow your breath when you're heavily betting a guy who's 0-3 in the UFC. But I think this is tailor-made for him to win. Do you see where I'm going here?
I do, but here's the thing. It's Miraz is Perez is 6-4 on the ground, so he's a little better than 500, and he's never been finished standing up. He's got 7 TKOs, KOs. He has had tougher competition later in his career, where it seems like Gurula has had kind of weak competition the whole way through. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm leaning towards Daniel Perez just slightly. Like, if I was forced to bet $100, if you gave me $100, I'm probably betting on Daniel, to be honest with you. So, that's one that maybe people can read where we're torn
No,
and
yeah, I like it.
and not fly over it because there's anti-aircraft down there. I don't know, but so that's yeah. We'll just, I guess, agree to disagree on that one, and we'll see how it plays out. Next one on Vienna and Adeline. Adeline 2-2 and Vienna 4-7 in the UFC, 13-8 overall. The competition for both of them, I mean, could have been a tougher road for both of them, but kind of break this down for us.
Which chick fight was that again, Pat?
Adeline and Vienna.
Alice Ardeline. Yeah. Once again, we've seen a UFC female favorite moving in the right direction. Not quite as aggressively as Kalari, but Ardeen opened up at -190. She's about -210 now. Caitlin Vieira has had a rough road. She seems to maybe be on the way to fighting for MVP or another promotion herself, and I think it's just the downward trajectory of Polyana Viana here and Ardeline looking younger and moving on up, whereas Vieira just she hasn't looked herself her last few fights. What are you thinking?
Well, she's 1-4 in her last 5, and just it has, there's been a slide there. She's, in my humble opinion, I think that Ardeline is definitely going to win this one. But a lot of these fights, it's not like these athletes have, in my humble opinion, to get my blood going after last week, this is like we ran out of crack. We totally ran out of crack.
Well, maybe Netflix is your new crack dealer this week, and we can kind of, obviously we want to keep this show shortish because we're doing 2 shows, but I think we have a little bit of time here, Pat. Do you think the UFC messed up by even doing a card? What would you do if you were in Hunter Campbell / Dana White's shoes? Who knows who's actually calling the ultimate shots at the UFC? I think it's a combination of both. Do you say, you know what, let MVP have their weekend? Or do you say, you know what, we're just going to throw together some bullshit and add the apex? What do you think of the UFC's decision to go head-to-head with a Netflix card that's on paper way better than them?
Well, I think that's what it is. It's just, just probably to look and see how they do against them, even with a bad card. Not sacrifice, a bunch of high level, top ranked athletes, on this weekend, obviously. And I think that, they've so saturated the market at the same time that there's 2 strategies there that come to mind, and how it plays out is you get a ton of athletes signed and you get them early so that other people can't use them or get them. But that waters down your product, until people are seasoned and truly ready, for television, in my humble opinion, that have refined their game and are truly seasoned fighters and have made it through the gauntlet, so to speak. So there's good and bad with both, So trying to control the sport, which they kind of do, from cradle to grave in many athletes' careers, but it kind of comes back a little bit in quality of cards, right?
Yeah, and one more quick question, then we'll get on to the next fight. Did you ever think you would see, like we have today, where the UFC has such a monopoly obviously from your day, Pride was still a huge thing. And then when you were an announcer, I know at one point there were like 7 or 8 major MMA companies. They all had major TV deals. You would do broadcasting work for several of them, and now we're down to like one. Where it's the UFC has built such a monopoly. Are you surprised by this, or did you always see this coming?
I didn't always see it coming. I think that people have reasons for starting MMA organizations, and many of those reasons end up with being purchased by the UFC, right? Or being covered on UFC Fight Pass. A lot of times, that's their goal. And if that's your goal, then that's your goal. So, Strikeforce, I think everybody was surprised by the sale to the UFC. It was They had a dominant heavyweight class. They had a dominant 185-pound class. They had a lot of great 170 pounders. I mean, they had great 55ers. And when Strikeforce was purchased, those athletes actually went in and won titles. That's how legitimate Strikeforce was. And Scott Coker at the time did not have the deciding factor. He didn't have enough voting power within the investors and things like that to be able to stop that purchase. But nonetheless, he still made a lot of money. So,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So, all right. Moving on to Petrosky versus Brundage. Interesting matchup between these two guys. Brundage batting lower than 500, but he's still a rough character. I don't know where he's at right now. He's 1-1-3. His last 5 fights, not tearing it up by any means, but at the same time, neither is Petrosky. So, what's your breakdown on these two?
Give me Brundage here. Not a massive bet, but I'm just not an Petrosky guy. I'm sure he could beat me up, but he seems to wilt heavily after about half a round. If he doesn't beat you in the first half a round, then he's going to struggle. And he kind of tries to be a wrestling bully. And really, anytime he gets a guy who can wrestle, like a Jacob Malkoon or something, it ends very poorly for him. So Brundage is tough, man, and that just speaks to the monopoly that the UFC is. When guys with losing UFC records are still pretty damn tough and pretty damn good. I'm a Brundage guy, man. He's seen some very close decisions, some weird stuff happen in his fights. He was one of the most hated fighters in the UFC there for a bit because he had several weird things happen in fights, but he stayed through. I thought his fight against Julian Marquez was amazing. Shows his heart. He got hurt bad in that fight, came back and won. I also had a pretty big bet on Brundage in that fight, so I'll always love him for that. That was just like a year and a half ago, though. He's continued to look tough since then. I like that he's the underdog. I'm a little surprised that he is an underdog here. I would put it more at a 50-50 line. That's not what they have here. Petrosky opened up at minus 235, Pat, and bettors agree with me to an extent. They have bet Petrosky down from minus 235 to like minus 190, so not quite to like minus 110 pick him where I would have it, but I like Brundage here, man. I like that his price tag is plus 160. I can turn $200 into about $500, or about $500. So give me Brundage all day here, man. I think it's a fun underdog bet. Don't go crazy, but it's certainly worth a unit bet because I think he rolls here, and something that I'm confident in for plus 160. I like it.
So if Petrosky doesn't get it done early, he's not going to get it done. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying if he doesn't get it done in the first 3 minutes, there's no way he wins the fight.
Interesting observation from the expert.
In the first 3 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. Well, nonetheless, I'm leaning just a hair towards Petrosky.
Hey.
And yeah, he's still the favorite, which, you son of a. Hey, when I look at their numbers here.
This is sounding a lot like Tatsudo Taira last week. I'm just saying, Pat. I've come through for you before.
I think Petrosky gets him on the ground. He's not going to get it on the feet, but if he's going to win, he's going to do it on the ground. So, all right, I'll lean towards Petrosky. All right, go on to Caitlin Vieira against Jacqueline Cavalcante. Cavalcante is undefeated in the UFC at 5-0. She's been tearing it up. Not super heavily favored in the odds, is she?
No, and an abnormal amount of female fights on this card. Nothing wrong with that. But so once again, for the third time in a row, we've seen the female favorite move in the right direction. Cavalcante opens up at minus 140. She's about minus 170 now. Cavalcante's fun. She's very athletic. I've been impressed with Cavalcante. And Ketlin Vieira, very similar story and path to her Brazilian countrywoman, Poliana Viana. It just seems like her best days are behind her, and Cavalcante is moving in a positive direction, both in her career and in her betting line. Ketlin Vieira is moving in a bit of a negative direction, both with her career and reflected in her betting line. So give me Cavalcante here.
I agree with you. So the upset by number 13 over number 6 is more than likely in your humble opinion.
Yeah, not an upset on the betting line, but an upset ranking wise. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Moving on to Tommy Gant against Menev. Arthur Menev, who's 0-0 in the UFC. The Contender Series, Gant is 1-0. I've kind of just decided to call the Contender Series the Pretender Series. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. But he's 1-0.
Yeah.
Both guys undefeated overall, though. Interesting matchup. Somebody's O has got to go. Tell me whose O is gonna go, brother.
Did we Lee? Am I gone? Okay. Yeah. I think we might have had a brief cut out there for a second. We're gonna keep on rolling. Lee, are we still rolling?
Yeah. Tell me whose O is gonna go in that matchup between Gant and Menev.
Yeah, and just to hit on Contender Series real quick, it is up and down, and Dana White, always, Hunter Campbell, whoever, always feeding their ego. When they do occasionally get a guy like Sean O'Malley, they will remind us 100 times that they discovered him on Contender Series or something, while conveniently leaving out that a good 80% of the guys that win on Contender Series don't make it in the UFC. I mean, they're cheap labor, and we will get into that another time. But it's cheap labor basically. So, with Artur Tamev and Thomas Gant, whose O goes here? I think it could be the favorites. We've seen Thomas Gant open up at minus 240 over on Bet Rivers. He's minus 215 now. We often see that with two undefeated guys. Hey, they're both undefeated for a reason. I think Gant maybe has a little better strength of schedule. That's why he's the favorite. But Menev can win fights. He's shown that with his unbeaten record. I'm going to lean the underdog. Artur Menev here, probably just a half unit, fun bet, but I think Menev is a live dog here. Do you?
And you're leaning toward Menev, as you do many times underdog wise, because the fight looks close to you, but the opportunity to make money is with the underdog.
Yeah, I think it's closer to a 50-50 fight. So in that case, I'm always going to take the better in investment. Yeah.
And I simply am not betting, so I'm leaning slightly towards Gant in this one. So there you go.
Can you tell? How do you think Gant wins?
What's that?
Tomorrow? How do you think Gant wins?
I think he's better standing and on the ground. Frankly, I think he's a little more experienced and well-rounded on the ground. So, yeah, I see him getting it done probably on the ground. So. Neither one's competition has been great. I mean, when I look at them, there's some fucking, pardon my French, but there's some real cripples that they've fought before. So
yeah, they both seem to have somewhat padded undefeated records, but still undefeated nonetheless. One of them will not be undefeated after tomorrow night.
Yeah. So all right, moving on to Tacos and Urslan. Urslan looking for, Ivan's first win in the UFC at 0-3, 14-6 overall against Tuco Tacos at 1-2 in the UFC. Break it down for us.
Yeah, so Ivan Urslan, which is a fantastic fighter name, opened up at minus 1 70 on Caesar Sportsbook. He's minus 155 now. That's just a minor move in the wrong direction for the favorite. I think that I still like Ivan Urslan here. Tuco Tucos has been a bit of a punching bag. They've given him a rough start to his UFC career. At least Urslan has shown us that he can look like a UFC fighter. I'm going to somewhat tentatively stick with the favorite here with Ivan Urslan, who you can get at about minus 155 right now on Caesars and other sports books.
I'm going to lean toward Urslan as well. His schedule has been slightly tougher than Tuco's, so I'll lean that way with you on that. And then, all right, let's go on to Veretennikov against Chaos Williams. What an amazing name for a fighter, Chaos Williams.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you got to love
it. Really is. Yeah, it's like, and he spells it with a K and an H. It's like something on a Mortal Kombat. So Chaos Williams opened up at minus 125. He's minus 110 now. Fighting Veretennikov, who I'm kind of surprised is still in the UFC. He had some questionable things. Austin Vanderford choked him out pretty bad, and despite not showing much resistance while he's getting choked out, he tried to take some swings at Vanderford after he just got choked out. You never like to see that. It's the sign of, not the samurai warrior way. But I mean, Chaos Williams has been up and down too. He gets these great walk-off knockouts, but then he'll come out the next fight and just look where is the athleticism? Where is the speed? Where is the power that we saw just a few months ago? So it's really hard for Chaos Williams to string a couple wins together. This is hard, man. I was thinking it was going to be a tough pick. UFC card. It's very difficult to know which version of either guy is going to show up. I'm going to tentatively lean with Veretennikov, but that is only the slightest of leans. You seem to be a little bit torn on this fight too, brother. Am I correct?
Just a tad. Both guys 2-3 in their last 5 fights. There's a lot of things that kind of parallel, to be honest with you. The one thing that stands out to me is Chaos Williams has never been finished standing up, and that's not the case for Veretennikov. He's been finished twice on his feet. So I'm going to lean a little bit towards Chaos Williams in this matchup, just slightly.
Chaos Williams has certainly proven more. That's why I was a little surprised that the line's moving in Veretennikov's direction. But I think Veretennikov is a little younger, and it wasn't like it was a massive move. All right, what's the next?
But think about it, Josh. Think about it, Joshua. I mean,
I'm thinking
we've got to look at the general public. So there's a huge section of the general public that's basically retarded.
Yep.
Right.
I'm not going to say you're wrong.
And that goes for gamblers as well. So if you go with that, if you go what everybody else does, then it doesn't make sense. You got to go with your intuition, right?
Well, I'm going to counter that argument, Pat, by saying that the way that it works in a kind of a capitalist economy is the idiots run out of money, so they don't have the money to move the betting lines. The guys who are actually hanging on to their money can be like, all right, I like this, and they still have the money. A fool is quickly parted from his money, as Proverbs something says. So that would be my counter to that, Pat. If you hear me.
And I have no money in my pocket. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, you're done. You gotta.
All right. So I'm going with Chaos. You're going with Veretennikov. Is that your final offer?
It's going to be a lean in Veretennikov's direction, but honestly, between you, me, and the 500 viewers, I may just not bet the fight at all. This is a very close fight. I'm not excited to bet it.
Okay, Bernardo Sopaj against Kuwamba. I'm trying to read my own writing. Is it Kuwamba?
Yeah, Timothy Kuwamba.
2-2 for Kuwamba in the UFC, 10-3 overall, 1-1 for Sopaj at 1-1, 12-3 overall. Both guys like to stand and strike. I know that Timmy does not like the ground. It has not fared well on the ground. He's got no wins on the ground, and he has been finished on the ground. So that tells me I might be leaning a little bit towards Sopaj. Maybe you too.
No, I am leaning in the direction of Timmy Kuwamba. I don't love it. And We have certainly seen line movement be wrong before, and I was a bit surprised by this line movement, Pat. I thought it'd be moving in the direction of Sopage. It's not. It's moving pretty aggressively against Sopage. He opened up at minus 160. He's only minus 125 now. That means you can get Timmy Kawamba at about plus 110. I like the Kawamba side here. I dove a little more into it. There could be something going on that we don't know about. There may be an injury. There may be a camp or a weight cutting issue, but I have to pay attention when the line is aggressively going against Sopage and toward Kawamba. So give me Kawamba, probably about a unit, and at plus 110, I like it.
Okay, he's at plus 110, so I'm guessing Sopage is where now? Negative one what?
Sopage is about at minus 130, but he opened up at minus 180, so that's quite the regression for him.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm still leaning towards Sopage slightly in this one. His competition coming up fairly equal. He's 4-1 coming into this fight, so he's been on somewhat of a roll against decent competition, whereas Kawamba is 3-2. So I'm leaning a little bit towards Sopage. So there we are. We're split on a lot of these. We aren't normally split like this.
I got a little story for you, Pat, and I know we're keeping this under an hour, but
Aesop's Fables 1, 2, 3.
Well, if you're gonna like this one. So you mentioned the Joaquin Buckley Sean Brady fight. When we broke that down, Pat, Brady was about a minus 200 favorite. I woke up the next day, and Brady is not a minus 200 favorite anymore. Joaquin Buckley is a minus 200 favorite. In fact, Joaquin Buckley got up to a minus 300 favorite. So, multiple things happened. Every single sports bettor in the world is saying, oh my God, Joaquin Buckley is free money. This is crazy line movement. This only happens when, like a la Derek Minner, when a guy is hurt. Then something interesting happened. The Joaquin Buckley line, which in only like an hour had swung from plus 200 to minus 300, is almost unheard of and gets the alarm bells going off for corruption. So it was interesting. Right. The Buckley line hit about minus 300, and then it started to go down again. And when the fight actually happened, Buckley was only about minus 190. And so here is the rumor of what happened. Brady did come out and he said, yes, Hunter Campbell called me and he said, are you hurt? Because why the fuck is your betting line soaring in the wrong direction? Sean Brady said there was a small digestive issue and I did have to make a hospital trip, but I am fine. You can send over, I'm sure they sent over a doctor to clear him, and he fought. And it came out what it was refueling, eating. He has a big meal after making weight, and it was such a big meal that it caused a very large bowel movement, which caused a tear, which caused a hospital visit. It was fixed. It was repaired. Someone at that hospital leaked to their sports betting friends that Sean Brady is in the emergency room right now having, something done.
Sutures.
Yep.
Sutures.
And so I just wanted to say that to keep myself accountable and also tell kind of a crazy story. Line movement will occasionally paint a false picture. Now, in its defense, once it was kind of found out, okay, Brady literally just was in the emergency room for taking a big poop, he's gonna be fine. It did kind of come down a little bit for Buckley, but crazy times happening, man, with these line movements. And then Hunter Campbell is like, do I have to fire these guys? Do I have to call the FBI? And then Brady just absolutely mops the floor with him. So just
he mauled him. He
wasn't
even close. So
line movement lied on that one. So it does occasionally happen.
Yeah. All right. So now let's move on to Bukauskas against Edwards. Bellator for Edwards is where he's coming from. He's a Bellator recruit, obviously 5-3 in Bellator, 8-4 overall against Bukauskas, who's 7-5 in the UFC, 19-7 overall. Experienced quality opponents for the most part for Bukauskas, and not great competition for Edwards. I think you might reveal that the odds are probably revealing that.
Yeah, so it's telling to me that I believe this is Edwards' first UFC fight.
Yes.
But when PFL slash Bellator kind of went half bankrupt because they gave ridiculous amounts of money to Francis Ngannou for one fight, Jake Paul for no fights, and they're running out of money and had to let a lot of fighters walk, the UFC said, okay, we want Aaron Pico. We want Kayla Harrison. We want Michael Venom Page. We want Patricio Pitbull. These guys are at the top of their list. They're not saying we want Christian Edwards. Christian Edwards has somehow found his way into the UFC, almost like falling up. It's never a good sign. I don't love his record in Bellator. I bet some Christian Edwards fights, and it's a lot of spin and shit, a lot of karate. Does not handle well being put on his butt. Does not handle other good strikers that well.
Fundamentals, with good fundamentals.
Yeah, and it's a lot like Bukauskas is a future title challenger. The guy who's been in and out of the UFC himself, but at least he's shown that he's UFC level. And no disrespect to Christian Edwards, I think he could probably go to a place like Karate Combat and dominate. And they'd probably give him a real nice matchup. Maybe someone that's 0-0 and never fought in their life, and you can knock him out with an elbow to the back of the head and get his.
Which they've done, as we saw and covered.
Seems to be the cool thing to do in Karate Combat. But all joking aside, he probably could do well in Karate Combat. I don't think he's UFC level. He has a chance to prove me wrong tomorrow, but I don't think he's going to. Give me Bukauskas minus 300. I'm not comfortable with Modestas Bukauskas being minus 300 against anyone, so don't put your house on it. But I think that it's a fine bet, and I would expect Bukauskas to look like the real UFC fighter tomorrow.
And how many unit bet is Bukauskas then?
That would be a unit, and with a line like minus 345, for Bukauskas, I would love to go higher, but I just I don't want to overreact to people. Obviously, I mean, the bettors paint the story every week. They don't respect Christian Edwards. It's nothing against him personally, but it's not like Bukauskas is the next champion. So I would preach a little bit of caution, but Bukauskas is still my pick.
And explain to the listeners what a unit is in your betting when you say a one unit bet.
We've talked about that in the past, but not super recently. So good point there. So a unit is just going to be 1% of your bankroll. So if your bankroll is $1,000, a unit's going to be $10. The reason the unit system is helpful, there's multiple reasons. It lets you easily break down where your bankroll's at and how you're investing it and moving it around. And it also keeps you accountable for doing it responsibly and not making bad financial decisions. So they always say never go above 5 units, maybe 10 units once a year when you really believe in something, but never, ever, ever above 10 units, usually not above 5. And that kind of keeps you accountable because anything can happen in this sport. And so if you are doing that, then a big loss is never going to kill you. And it's worked for me. It's worked for a lot of other pro sports bettors. So that is the unit system.
It's the biblical way of doing the devil's game.
There you go. I like that.
All right. All right. There you go. Heard it from Reverend Josh. All right. Here we go. All right. Going on to Wellmaker versus Diaz. Diaz in the Contender Series 1-0. Wellmaker 2-1. What say you, the chosen one?
I actually like Malcolm Wellmaker quite a bit here, and I'll give you a few reasons why. Rarely will I feel a lot of confidence in a guy who just lost as like a minus 600 favorite, which is what happened. He had looked unstoppable in his first few UFC fights. Then he runs into Ethan Ewing, who was like given 2 days notice for this fight. He was a late replacement, but the line did something different. I think it actually went down a little bit. We had Wellmaker, who looked great, was like minus 600 against this newcomer no one had heard of. but his line went down a little bit. He closed at minus 500, which was like, wait, Wellmaker may not be free money here. And he wasn't. Ewing looked great, beat him, I believe, all 3 rounds, and Wellmaker handled it well. He's like, he was a really good fighter. It was hard to prepare for the guy, but no excuses. And Wellmaker's still really good. Just turns out Ethan Ewing was really good too. So this is tailor-made for Wellmaker to step right back into contender status. He opened up at minus 225 on Betway Sportsbook. He's minus 275 now. It's not like Malcolm Wellmaker's suddenly bad, but we kind of have to treat it like that, because if Malcolm Wellmaker would have beaten Ethan Ewing, he would be like minus 1,000 in this fight. But he didn't, because Ethan Ewing's pretty damn good himself. So give me Wellmaker. I think this is buying low. This is a great value. I think the line should be way higher. I think he rolls against Juan Diaz. He's faster. He's got more pop. Give me Malcolm Wellmaker minus 275, and let's put two units on it.
Nice. Well, as I look at Wellmaker and Diaz's records, Wellmaker's 10-1. While Diaz is 15-1. And while that can be deceptive when you look at the level of competition both have faced, Wellmaker has faced obviously pretty solid competition, and in Diaz's lineup, I mean, that's been extremely padded. I mean, a very padded record. So there you go. That justifies your pick a little bit more, so I'll agree with you on Wellmaker in that one. And then moving on to the co-main event, sir. Duho Choi versus Daniel Santos. Santos 4-1 in the UFC, doing pretty damn good against 5-3. Choi, no slouch, 16-4 overall. How do you break this one down for us?
Yeah, the sports bettors seem to like the younger guy here in Santos. We talk about Duho Choi. He's been around forever, and with Asian MMA still kind of finding its way, Joshua Van is technically the first Asian champion ever. He has that Burmese heritage. I'm sorry, the first Asian male champion. Obviously, we've had Zhang Wei Li making major waves in the women's division, but it's been a little bit of a bumpy road, and my hat is off to Duho Choi for being basically the Asian Jim Miller of the UFC. He's a veteran. He's been around forever. He's put on some absolute war.
Hold on, with like 70 less fights, so slow down.
He's put yeah. Well, I think I was trying to gas him up a little bit. But he's been around. He's certainly been one of the Asian veterans, and he's given us so many great fights. He'll give us another good one tomorrow. Duho Choi fights are never boring, but I worry about that chin starting to go, as you have so eloquently said. Once that button gets pushed, it gets easier and easier to push every time. Santos can crack a little bit, man. So I think Santos wins, and I think he's a pretty good bet here, maybe like a unit and a half. He was minus 138 on FanDuel. He jumped out all the way to minus 180, then came back down to minus 160. I still like Santos to look faster, younger, and better against Duho Choi tomorrow night.
All right, I agree with you on that call. And all right, on to the main event. Arnold Allen, number 13, against number 8, Mel Costa. Mel Costa 7-2 in the UFC against Allen at 11-3. Both guys, pretty good amount of experience overall. Both guys pretty good knockout ratios, pretty good submission ratios, obviously, as well. Allen never been finished. How do you break this one down?
Yeah, so, hi, can I speak to Melchizel, the Dalmatian Costa, please? Oh, this is him. Melchizel, I got some good news and some bad news. Okay, you ready? The good news is you get your first main event, brother. You have looked fantastic. Highlight reel knockouts, highlight reel submissions. You've got the look. You've got everything we want. Main event time, buddy. Bad news. You're going up against possibly the biggest MMA card of the year on a rival network, and no one's going to watch you, but you get the main event. I think Melquizel Costa takes advantage of the opportunity here. I talked about trajectory a lot on this show, and I think that's where we're going. Arnold Allen, all the respect in the world for him. But I'm not too happy with Mr. Arnold Allen recently.
He's cost you some money. He's cost
we
you some
both
money.
liked him a lot against Gene Silva.
Yeah, hold on, slow down. I want you to slow down. What happened is you were going to go buy an engagement ring for your girlfriend based on winning an Arnold Allen bet, and it didn't pan out. Therefore, you have to wait now, which actually, it's not a terrible thing. You never know. It gives you time to think. So.
Yes, Arnold Allen is the my girl. Arnold Allen is the destroyer of romance, is what Pat Miletich is telling you. So yeah, and the thing was, Arnold Allen won the first round, doing everything that we talked about. He's going to be technical, and Silva's going to be insane in there. And then Silva just walked him down. And it's obvious that Arnold Allen has seen better days. What a fighter he's been. He's fantastic in both wins and losses. Just knocked out Dan Hooker brutally. Great 5-round fight against Max Holloway, even though he lost. But I'm buying Melquizel Costa here, and a lot of sports bettors are joining me in that, Pat. When you look at the line movement here, brother, Arnold Allen opens up at minus 200 on FanDuel. He's minus 130 now. That means the line is aggressively moving in Melquizel Costa's direction, and bettors are fading Allen, and they're liking Costa here. That's a telltale sign for several reasons. Arnold Allen is the household name. Melquizel Costa isn't, but diehard fans, diehard bettors see the potential in Melquizel Costa. I think he rolls here. I think he can do it all, man. I think he does it all better than this version of Arnold Allen. He strikes better. He wrestles better. Jiu-jitsu's better. I think he wins the fight and probably makes it look relatively easy. Arnold Allen's
really
slowing down.
You are really going all in on Costa.
I love him. I love him.
You're gonna have to wipe your chin after this episode.
He's the next thing. I think he's the. I sound like you talking about Dan Henderson. I sound like you talking about Dan Henderson. But he's I like Melquizel Costa. 2.5 units. 2.5.
Dude. This is heavy. Interesting. So, and Allen was 11-0 before he had his slide, right? But he's lost by decisions. And while some may have been lopsided decisions, the guy's never been finished. He's had very solid opponents. And I just don't see Costa he didn't have super great competition along the way in comparison to Allen. There's a lot here that's telling my intuition to go with Allen. And that's where I've got to remain. So like next week, it's going to be interesting because you and I didn't agree on at least 50% of these fights.
Yeah.
Right?
And
again, the mathematical thing for making money, I understand that's what you're doing as well, of course.
If you win every fight that we disagreed on this week, I'm just going to not show up next week.
No, you're going to show up.
There's going to be a training dummy sitting in this seat that you're going to talk to next week.
Yeah, well, and anybody out there as well, pick Allen or Costa by manner of the win and what round it happens in, and get yourself some free Diamond clothing and some cell saviors. We want to send it to you. So any other notes that you want to close with besides join us back on MMA Mobsters for our breakdown of the MVP card coming up here in about 5-10 minutes, right?
Yeah. So an MVP card is going to come up. I think probably we'll have to talk to our producer and make an official apology video to Melquizel Costa for disrespecting him so mightily just now. But other than that, I'm just kidding. No one respects the fighters more than Pat. So yeah, I think that that there is a UFC card this week, and it'll be the most UFC card of all time. There is money to be made. I was just talking about Melquizel Costa, and there was a few other bets that I really liked. The apple of our eyes is the Francis Ngannou, Ronda Rousey, Nate Diaz, Mike Perry thing we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. But
Sure.
I will say that the biggest thing that going back to the days when I first met you, when we had Bellator cards a couple times a month, we had PFL cards almost every week, I would tell you, I bet these cards, but UFC is my moneymaker. I love Bellator. It's fun. It's more of a circus. R.I.P. Bellator. But I would never bet as much money as I bet on UFC just because it was more unpredictable. So
Sure.
just because something is new and it's fun and it's kind of a it doesn't mean that it's safer financially. UFC, we get the best of the best, and these lines are picked through, and the line movement is usually very reliable. Tread a little more carefully with a promotion doing their first card ever with a bunch of aging fighters, but this Netflix card is going to be wild. So tune in here in a few minutes. Let's get some more people in the live chat. Maybe you and I can do a post, because I want some people in the live chat asking questions. This is exciting. Let's go.
All right, buddy. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share our channel. Anything you see on social media, of course, MMA Mobsters, and anything that Josh and I share, of course. So we'll see you back on the channel here momentarily when we cover the MVP card and break that down for all of you. And until then, in a few minutes, so long.
Hey. Yeah. Yeah, hey, giving it all, hey, yeah, I'm giving it all I could give, run up and taking my pick, then bringing it back to the crib, hey, yeah, you know how I go, we finding the gold, the deeper we dig, so we just keep digging till we finally get it, like fuck it, I'll sleep when I'm dead, yeah, I gave you my word, don't break it for no one, you know I'ma keep what I said, ready for war, I've been deep in the trance, been jumping since I had them streaks in the bed, ice in my body, I'm cold under pressure, recovered like I had no heat in the vents, shooting I don't ever cut you, too much to accomplish, you know I can't leave it to chance, yeah, throw it in the bag, throw some dots, I'm Jackson Dart, I'm out of pocket playing tag, catch me if you can, empty out the mag, took the lead, I run the track, and I'm never looking back, going for the moment, always rolling with the punches, find a way to see through the ceiling, put above us, smoke is in the air, keep it heavy in abundance, when the dust settles, let's see who remains.